streaming everywhere because we doing Facebook group and we're doing YouTube. So 1 second. Oh, I think I hear the echo. Hold on 1 second. All right. This is better. Now we don't have an echo. Hello, Mr. Dr. Chaney. It's a pleasure to have you in my Facebook group. Thank you for coming and talking to us. And I'm gonna read your bio real quickly. That's an amazing achievements that you have in here, and I want to talk about those. Hold on 1 second. Oh, where did my things go? So
while you're looking, I'll just say thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm looking forward to getting to know you and your group better.
Yes, I am very excited. So here it is. So let me say a couple of words about you. Dr. Chaney is an educator who taught human metabolism and nutrition to first-year medical and dental students for 40 years. He was named Basic Science Teacher of the Year. And Dr. Chaney is a scientist who ran an active cancer research program for 37 years. He was internationally known for his research on the biochemistry of anti-cancer drugs. He helped develop a drug that represents a major advance in the treatment of colon cancer and was a featured speaker. Dr. Chaney is an author who has published over 100 papers and 12 reviews in peer-reviewed scientific journals, as well as 2 chapters on nutrition for the first 6 editions of Textbook of Biochemistry with Clinical Correlations, one of the leading biochemistry textbooks for medical students. He's also the author of Slaying the Food Myths, Slaying the Supplements Myths, which were Amazon bestsellers in several categories. And today we're going to talk about slaying the dieting myths. This is amazing. Thank you again for coming. And I'll start with the first question. So I'll ask you about the short-term weight loss. For example, if I want to go on vacation, actually I'm going to a summit soon, and I want to lose like 10-15 pounds. What diet, what approach should I choose?
Well, I guess the interesting thing is, yes, I authored a book, Slaying the Food Myths, and I did talk about various diets in there, but I think you would call it the first anti-diet book, if you can call it that's been written, because most books on that topic, they have their own favorite diet. And they're trying to tell you that everybody should follow that diet. So
yes,
that's not where I'm coming from. So here's a fast fact that'll kind of get you to thinking about this.
Okay.
The vegan diet and the keto diet, we're going to give you virtually identical results in terms of short-term weight loss, and with all the health parameters like cholesterol levels, blood sugar, blood pressure that go along with that weight loss, virtually identical results. Now, if you think of 2 diets that are as much polar opposite, those would be it. Vegan on the one hand is plant-based, very, very low fat. Keto is meat-based, very, very low carb. Those are polar opposites. So what does that tell us? Well, the first thing is it tells us we can forget all that mumbo jumbo that you may read on websites and books and whatever about why that particular diet works, and then ask, what do they have in common? Well, it's interesting. When you think about it, the only thing they have in common is they're very restrictive diets.
All right. And what is restrictive? What do you mean by restrictive?
Well, there's a lot of ways. So a lot of ways the diet can be restrictive. So the old fashioned is you just restricted calories. You counted calories.
Right.
Vegan and keto, they restrict food groups.
Right.
You know, you can't eat any animal food groups in vegan, and you have to, you eliminate most fruits, a lot of vegetables, whole grains, things like that from keto. So you eliminate whole food groups.
Mhm.
And then there's the intermittent fasting where you're restricting the time that you eat. There's low carb, low fat. We have diets where you have rigid rules in terms of what you can eat and what you can't eat, what time of day you can eat, those sorts of things. And
Mhm.
then the diets that force you to write down food diaries, everything you eat. All of those are restrictive diets. So
All
that
right.
they cover the gamut.
Uh-huh. And do they work? I think they work for a lot of people.
Well, they all work short term. So the question is, why do they work? And I think
Okay.
and one of the reasons is that anything is better than the typical American diet. The typical American diet is high in sugar, it's high in fat, it's high in salt, high in convenience foods, junk foods, sodas, you name it. It's got all the bad things in it. So any diet you go on is going to be better than that. You're going to lose some weight. Um,
Yeah.
Secondly, they're all whole food diets. So anytime you give up sodas, junk foods, highly processed foods, you're going to lose weight. That's a no-brainer. But then there's what I call the bagel and cream cheese phenomenon. So think about this for a minute. Let's
Okay.
say you're a vegan, and you say, well, I can eat all the bagels I want, but without the cream cheese to go with it, they don't have quite the appeal. You don't end up eating as many bagels. And if you're in the
Mhm.
keto diet, you can have all the cream cheese you want. Without the bagels to go with it, the cream cheese doesn't have the same appeal, so you don't eat as much. That's the whole bagels and cream cheese. I mean, that can apply to a lot of different food pairings, but you take one half of that food pairing away, the other isn't quite as appealing.
Uh-huh.
But the most important thing is you have to think about what you eat. You've eliminated a lot of your favorite foods. And so now you have to think, well, what is I'm going to have for lunch? What am I going to have for dinner? Uh, Anytime you think about what you're going to eat, you eat less. So those
Mm-hmm.
are the four reasons why these restrictive diets work.
Okay. What about things like prepacked diets, like the prepacked meals, everything like done for you, ready for you?
Well, I think that the one thing you can say about them is they're all very expensive. If you're preparing your own food from scratch, it's going to cost you a lot less. So those are kind of diets that you know you, most people can't afford for any length of time. But there's the better ones. The better ones are some of the prepackaged foods where their focus is on healthy eating. And
Mm-hmm.
some of them they actually give you healthy ingredients and recipes so that you can create the meal yourself. Those are probably the better of the prepackaged meals. But the ones that are designed for weight loss, you watch TV commercials for some of these, and they tell you you can eat all your favorite foods, and they show you these pictures of pizza and
Mm-hmm.
gooey desserts and that sort of thing. You can eat all of that sort of stuff. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they've got a low calorie version of it, but you know, um, obviously those are highly processed foods. And do we really need more highly processed foods? I don't think so.
I
But the
don't
really
think so.
important question is if you're eating all your favorite foods, what new eating habits are you learning? What's going to happen when you decide this is too expensive? I'm not going to buy those foods anymore. You
Mm-hmm.
haven't learned anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think about meal replacements? The shakes, the anything that, it's better than stopping at McDonald's, right? When you don't
Yes.
have time.
Well, that gets back to the anything is better than the typical American diet.
Right.
But yes, but yeah, you got shakes, you got bars, you got all of these things. So I just give people, that it's not necessarily a bad or a good option, but you have to be aware. So I tell people what you should look for is look for products that don't have artificial ingredients. The cheapest way to cut calories is artificial sweeteners, and then you have preservatives and the fancy and artificial flavors. And a lot of companies do that. So that's my first no. We really don't need more artificial ingredients in our diet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and avoid ones that are highly processed foods. But now we're getting to important things. Look for their clinical studies. They have clinical
Mm-hmm.
studies that show they're effective for short-term weight loss and long-term. So this is a big separator. There are a lot of companies who will do 2-week, 3-week, maybe even 4-week studies. And yes, you use a meal replacement product for that length of time, you lose weight, but they don't follow up. So you want companies who've also looked at 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and ask, okay, is the weight still coming off? Are you staying the same, or is it starting to come back?
Oh, wow, they don't even follow up, huh?
Hmm?
They don't even follow up. That's pretty
Right.
pretty amazing.
Well, again, so that's where you look at the websites and say, well, and look for clinical studies that back the products that they're talking about. Or if they have ads, ask, a lot of the ads will say, in 4 weeks, you lose X amount of pounds. Well, what about in 6 months, 9 months? That's where you want to ask if they really have that kind of information. But it goes beyond that. It goes beyond really with any diet. You're trying to change your lifestyle. You're trying to learn healthy eating and lifestyle tips. So you would want to choose, if it's a meal replacement program, you'd want to choose one that has healthy recipes, meal plans that are well balanced and healthy, exercise programs, ones that really teach you healthy eating habits, healthy lifestyle habits. So that's what you should look for. And if you're looking at meal replacement products.
So basically, these companies that can nurture you and help you, so basically they're like coaching you to achieve the results, and they do care about you, right? Do you have any companies in mind that you can recommend? Do you?
Okay. Can you hear me okay? Because I'm getting sort
Yes.
of
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have
I guess on this end we have more. I get this end we might have too many things open on our computers, so you were getting a little garbled, but I heard the question. So one company I recommend is Shackley. They check all of those boxes that I talked about to begin with. Now, I do want to have full disclosure here. My wife does have a Shackley business, so you might say, okay, I'm biased. But what that Shackley business has done, what her business has done, is given me unlimited access to behind the scenes at Shackley. So I have, toured their research facilities. I've toured their quality control facilities. I've talked with their scientists. So based on that knowledge, I know that they do the clinical studies, they do the quality controls, and I know that they're really committed to making products that work, and and not trying to make claims that really aren't backed by fact. Now, there are a number of other companies out there that I know don't do that, and there's some companies out there that might do that, but none of them are willing to give me that kind of access to behind the scenes. So I can't be an advocate. So
all right.
it's not so much prejudice, it's really the extent to which I've been able to look behind the curtain and see what's going on.
So I know I kind of like took a look at everything Shockley is doing. And in 10 years that I've been doing this, I was like pleasantly surprised by the company, like how much knowledge, how much care, and how the quality is amazing. And I just started taking Vivix and Vitalizer, and I really love the effect. Like really love how I feel when I take them. So is there diets that really we should concentrate on for the long term, for the weight loss, for the results that not going to disappear after a month or two? What is the is there?
Well, I guess let me put it slightly differently. If you're looking for weight loss, as I said earlier, you can start with any restrictive diet short term is going to work, but you need to ask yourself, what diet are you transitioning to? And you want to transition to a healthy diet.
Mm-hmm. Because, you
So
know, I do a lot of, I do my signature limitless body cleanse, and I do like, I believe in what worked for me, for my health, and I lost probably like 50 pounds. I look totally different before. That you choose, like, let's be smart about it. You choose short term, something that's depending on your goals that can give you results, but then you transition to something you can sustain. And when people coming to me and I work with them, yes, we reset their microbiome. There's a certain things that we restrict. There's certain things, like I like to do it fast, work on the liver, pancreas, like help them to lose weight. But then we transition, and what I use in my practice is just, I have meal plans, I have recipes, and I do not restrict people. So if they prefer to kind of like be more of a paleo vegetarian, I kind of like do the combination of whole food diet that's designed to give you the natural whole foods. Is that something that you recommend?
yeah, so I mean that's exactly where I'm coming from. So you want a diet that's whole foods. You want a
Mm-hmm.
diet that has all 5 food groups represented.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the healthiest diets are ones that are primarily plant-based. That doesn't mean you have to go vegan. It can be
Right.
vegan, vegetarian, semi-vegetarian, Mediterranean, DASH. There's a whole lot of variety, all of which there's evidence long-term that those diets are healthy.
And especially for women with our hormones, we need to detox those estrogens, especially if they take the wrong pathway. Not that we prefer to take like 16-4-hydroxy. We do need some fiber. We do need those vegetables to help us the hormone balance. I believe that. So that's why a lot of like ketogenic diets don't work for women. They work sometimes better for men than for women. So many women coming to me and saying that ketogenic diets completely broke their body and they need to recover now.
Yeah, I mean, the ketogenic diets have some serious drawbacks, and that's one of the things um, but it's interesting. If you look at
Mm-hmm.
long-term studies, people who follow primarily plant-based diets, and a whole variety, we get an individual variation, which is what you're speaking about, which
Mm-hmm.
means that from that variety of primarily plant-based diets, you're going to choose the one that best fits your lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
your hormone situation,
Mm-hmm.
what works for you. There are lots of options, but the good ones are all primarily plant-based.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's interesting. There are long-term studies that show that people that follow those kinds of diets 10, 20, 30 years, way less, and have lower rates of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer than the average American.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the
Mm-hmm.
interesting thing on the flip side, the Atkins diet's been around for more than 50 years, and there's not a single study showing that it's healthy long term.
Mm-hmm.
None of
You
the
know
other low
what?
carb diets have been around long enough to even do a long term study.
Mm-hmm. You know, I absolutely believe that it depends on the individual. There is so much we still don't know. You probably, I suffered for a long time with IBS and SIBO. And actually, what helped me to completely reset my microbiome, of course, I did the cleanse, of course, I did the work on my liver, pancreas, but actually, I healed my digestion with legumes.
Mhm.
So I completely excluded, and the mainstream advice for sufferers with IBS and SIBO is to remove all the FODMAP diets, especially legumes, things like garlic, broccoli, cauliflower, all these vegetables, and more of like low FODMAP, paleo diet. So yeah, I did the absolutely different thing because I couldn't have success with those. So I did absolutely different thing. I decided, well, I'm gonna try just strictly plant-based, and I'm gonna eat a lot of legumes. And I did the cleanses. I restarted my microbiome. I did, of course, a lot of parasitic cleanses, and it worked like a charm. With garlic and legumes, I healed my IBS literally. I did the abdominal massage. So it wasn't just like me eating beans, basically, but this was a big part of it. to say goodbye to my SIBO. This is just amazing, despite all of the, mainstream beliefs about fiber and things like IBS. So yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so that's that gets. Go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to get back to the weight loss, and I want to ask you, so what can help us to keep the weight off? Like if we see the results from a diet, what are your tips? What can help?
Well, again, it's you want to choose a primarily plant-based diet, whole food, primarily plant-based. We can get to individual variability, which you touched on in a minute. That's a very interesting topic, but because you have to find out what works best for you. Just saying primarily plant-based, you start by choosing the one that fits your lifestyle best, which I assume is what you did initially. And then you have to say, well, did that work for me? And sometimes the different foods work differently. Fascinating study we can get to when we talk about that topic. But a primarily plant-based diet is, again, the studies show, on the average, you're going to weigh less than most Americans. So my take on this is, once you find the diet that works for you, as long as it's primarily plant-based, primarily whole food, the weight is going to come off naturally. It's not going to be a diet per se.
And what else can help?
There's a fascinating, I would call it an organization, but it's really more like a database. Don't know if you've heard about it, but it's the National Weight Control Registry. So this is a database, National Weight Control Registry, and anybody who's lost more than 10 pounds and kept it off for more than a year can sign up, be part of that registry, and then they have to put in information about what diet they lost the weight on and what diet and lifestyle they're following. So as of the last time I checked, there were over 10,000 people who'd registered. They'd lost weight on every diet imaginable, which goes back to any restrictive diet works short term. But on average, the people that have registered in the National Weight Control Registry have lost over 66 pounds and kept it off more than 5 years. There's some that have lost more than 100 pounds and kept it off for more than 5 years. But the really good news, because anyone who's lost weight knows it is a struggle keeping that weight off. But here's the good news. Once they'd maintained that weight loss for between 2 and 5 years, it became easy. It became automatic. It was no longer a struggle. So for all of you out there who are struggling, you've lost some weight, you're struggling to keep it off, keep up the good fight. Don't give up, because if you stick with it long enough, it becomes easy.
Yes, don't give up. That I always say this when when I start with someone and we start the protocol, we start something to work on whatever we work on, and people are saying, well, at first it was like so much, I got a little bit like panicking, like how I'm gonna do this, and it's like 1 week later I'm doing everything. It's like feeling like second nature to me, right? At first, our brain is always saying no to any changes. It just doesn't like the change. And in about a week to whatever it is and you're feeling like it's natural again, right?
Yes, absolutely. But here's the thing. So, so here are like the top 6 or 7 things that they found, and then when that National Weight Control Registry database that people did who kept the weight off successfully. So one is sort of simple. They all consumed reduced calorie healthy diets. And this is a variety of healthy diets. It's not just one. But the second one's really important. They've internalized their eating patterns. So what does that mean? It was no longer a diet. See, that's a bad thing. We think about a diet as it's almost a bad word. It's something we
Right.
have to do.
That's true.
Something we
Mhm.
have to do, and it's forced on us. And maybe we force it on ourselves, but it's all willpower. It's tough. That's the sort of the mindset we go into it. Uh, but they've internalized it. They've come to the point where it's no longer a diet. It's simply the way I eat,
Mhm.
simply the way they eat. So once you get to that point, then that's where it starts to become easy. Um,
Mhm.
they monitor their weight regularly. Now, that doesn't mean they're paranoid about it, but about like once a week, about the same, once a week, same time of day, they'll hop on the scales, see whether they're going up or going down. And because they know what to do, if they gain a pound or two, they just make some minor adjustments to take care of it.
Mhm.
So they're monitoring their weight regularly. They're not paranoid, but they do it on a regular basis so they can adjust if they need to. Um, they eat breakfast regularly. That's one of the ones you've probably heard a lot of. They get lots of exercise, at least an hour of exercise a day. Um,
Mhm.
they now the last time I looked, which was a few years ago, this parameter was they watched less than an hour of TV a day. No,
All right.
less than 10 hours of TV a week. Um, now I think we would probably substitute screen time,
So screen time, right?
whether it's
Yes.
on whether it's on our phone or whether it's in front of the computer, just sitting there
Especially when it gets
idly.
dark, right? After, I always say, like,
Yes.
you can forget about healthy cortisol response when your brain thinks it's 12 a.m. at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. at night. Your brain is just registering this blue light and thinking, like, it's time to work. It's time to wake up. It's not time to sleep. So you're completely messing up your melatonin, cortisol, and then it's just like the chain of your sex hormones, like your neurotransmitters, everything. And I really like when you said, like, the diet, it's a bad word. It needs to become our lifestyle. It always come to what I share with my followers, my clients, with the ladies around me. We can choose. We used to be people like 100 years ago. We used to think about what are we doing with our body. They tell us they didn't, but they actually, when I look at these movies, like even 50 years ago, they all dressed nicely. They all have the tables. They would sit down. The meal was something. It was something. It was something pretty. It was something significant, And the people would dress nicely. They would choose what they put in their mouth, the pretty food. They would prepare their meals, And right now we're living in such a hurry. We don't choose what we put inside of our body. There is, I would even say, maybe it sounds harsh, it's like self-disrespect, really deep disrespect of what we're doing with our body. I always say it's our property, like the first, like, real estate we have. We take care of what's inside of our houses, inside of our car. We clean it. What about the body? We have this ability not just feel deprived by eating certain things of not eating. We're choosing, right? We choose what we put inside of us. I think this is like, you're buying the pretty furniture, or I don't know, the pretty clothes. You choose. You're not just going to put any clothes on. You're going to choose. The same with food. I think it's just normal self-respect to
It's normal
put
self-respect.
good quality things inside of you.
It's normal self-respect, but it's also sort of a rewiring of your brain. So one of the things, I'm sure you've seen this, you've worked with people, just take dairy, for example, full fat milk. There's somebody that's drunk full fat milk growing up, and you give them a glass of skim milk, they're going to say, this tastes like water.
Mm-hmm.
But give them, 4 weeks on skim milk, and it tastes normal, and full fat milk tastes greasy.
Mm-hmm. All
So,
right.
again, it's sort of rewiring your brain, but it's also
Right.
rewiring your brain. When you give up the sweets,
Mm-hmm.
the highly processed sweets, all the junk food, those sorts of desserts, and you start to eat fresh fruits,
Mm-hmm.
then you start to appreciate the subtle flavors that fresh fruits have. Twinkies, ding dongs, all of those things, they taste the same every time you get them. And it's basically just sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
The peach, blueberries, raspberries, whatever it is. They may taste a little bit different every, because they're picked differently, um, grown in different places. But, those subtle flavors, you get used to that and you crave that.
And you crave that. Absolutely. Yes. What do you think about this advice? Eat in the first 30 minutes of waking, then some people saying that it's an intermittent fasting and it's absolutely healthy to eat just twice a day and have this eating window. What do you think about this advice? What's your intake on that?
So that it sounds like you're talking about intermittent fasting here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that comes in the category of restrictive diets. You've now restricted the time with which you're eating. And the interesting thing is that
Mm-hmm.
several clinical studies have shown that if you compare intermittent fasting with any other healthy diet that restricts calories to the same extent, weight loss is identical.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the time, again, you can forget that mumbo jumbo you've been reading about intermittent fasting. It's not some magic secret. It's just you've managed a way to restrict calories because you restricted the time that you're eating. Now, if people try and cram all the food of the day into that limited time period,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to work. And so knowing that it's no better than any other diet that restricts calories to the same extent, the only question becomes, does this help you restrict the calories more easily than diet X or Y or Z? If it helps you restrict calories more easily and you're eating healthy foods, yeah, most people can do it. Some people, they have to be a little bit careful. Not everybody can fast.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Not everybody can go 12, 16 hours, whatever it is, without food.
Right. Yes. All right. This is interesting. So the best way is just plant-based, primarily plant-based. Be gentle with your body. Just start eating whole foods. Is that correct?
Yeah, that probably puts it into a nutshell as easily. And then, but the other thing is, give your body a chance to adjust,
Mm-hmm.
and then listen to your body.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel on that diet? You talked about, you change the diet, you feel amazing. Well, let's say you change the diet and you don't feel so amazing. You may want to make some adjustments. You can usually tell if your blood sugar's out of whack if you've learned how to listen to your body. That you eat something and now you're tired, or
Mm-hmm.
your blood sugar gets so low that you're nervous, you do crazy things. It affects all of us a little bit different, but if we learn to listen to our bodies, we can say, okay, this isn't working for me, I'm going to adjust.
Mm-hmm. I love
But
this. I
let me
love
just
this.
close with one other thing I think is really fascinating. And it gets back to something we've talked a lot about or skirted around, and that's individual differences.
Mm-hmm.
So I call this the Lake Wobegon effect. And probably a lot of people listening to this call have no idea what that is, but there was a radio show on NPR a few years ago. Garrison Keillor, he called it the Prairie Home Companion. And one of the stories he would relate every time was the Lake Wobegon stories. And he always started out, this is a story of Lake Wobegon, where all the children are above average. Now, that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the children are going to be above average. So that's why I call it the Lake Wobegon effect. But clinical studies, because all the recommendations you see generally are based on clinical studies. Clinical
Mm-hmm.
studies report averages. None of us are average. We're all different.
Absolutely. I love that.
So
Yes.
one example is glycemic response, which is the increase in blood sugar after you
Mm-hmm.
take a meal. You've probably seen these tables of glycemic index, which foods give you a high blood sugar response, which foods give you a low blood sugar response. Those are average values. There was a study a few years ago that asked, well, how much individual variation was there? And for any food, the variation in blood sugar response was from 4 to 7-fold.
Mhm.
One of the examples I thought was particularly interesting was they compared sugar cookies with bananas. Same amount of carbohydrate, but sugar cookies versus bananas. Now, if you look at the averages, sugar cookies have a much higher glycemic index. But if you look at them individually, some people had a higher blood sugar response with bananas. Other had a higher blood sugar response with sugar cookies. So it's
Interesting.
not like you can take any food and predict just on the basis of averages what your response is going to be. Or can you take any diet based on clinical studies and averages and know how you're going to respond to that diet?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I love this. So I think this is a couple more questions and I'll let you go.
Okay.
One question is, what's your intake on when I do, a lot of people come to me and I do the blood tests, I do gut health, like I do a lab tests. And a lot of people, they want me to do the food sensitivity test. And the thing is, what I saw in my practice, we do the food sensitivity test. And then there are a lot of foods, like a lot of, typically a lot of people respond to a lot of foods. And then we work on their microbiome, we reset, we work on the SIBO, we work on the leaky gut, and then we do testing, and a lot of these food sensitivities, they just disappear. So my thing is, and I like recently, I don't even like to do the food sensitivity test because like I have people coming to me literally eating steak and asparagus because a doctor or a like nutritionist did the food sensitivity test and everything was eliminated from their nutrition plan. And then the people coming to me and I let them eat a lot more foods, like get away from this. And the lose weight, I had 65 years old woman. She literally came to me. She couldn't eat anything because she was scared to eat. Everything was food sensitivity. And then we started eating the foods. We started more of a plant-based diet, and she lost something close to 70 pounds in 4 months, like without try with eating a lot more. She actually started eating food, variety of food. So what's your intake on the food sensitivity tests?
Food sensitivity tests. So they can alert you to problem foods that people might not otherwise know are problem foods, but they're not magic indicators.
Right.
So
And it's
anytime
not set in stone, right? We can.
That's not set in stone. That's what I mean. It's not set in stone. So yeah, you get a read back. I'm sensitive to these foods. You should do it. You should follow that with a food challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Where you actually, look. So what are your symptoms that you're experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
and try
Mm-hmm.
the foods one by one, and see if they, if you get that same response.
Mm-hmm.
If you
So
get
they
the
can
response
help
that
to
was
lower
predicted,
the. Uh-huh.
So they know how they usually have the food sensitivity test because they have some problem.
Right.
So do a food
Right.
challenge,
And
individual foods, see
And
if
it's
it makes it.
probably going to help to lower the inflammation, to lower the inflammatory response. And it worked for some time, but you definitely, I like the idea of a food challenge that after you work on whatever was the problem in your body, it's always good to either to start slowly reintroducing the foods after you take care of, like you using some herbs, using some of the things to help your digestion, to reintroduce them, or to like, you don't like these restrictions, they are not for following them for 2, 3, 4, 5 years and just feeling like your body should stay deprived of the major food groups for long term.
Yeah, and I also wanted to support what you were talking about. If you heal the gut, heal the microbiome, you lose weight, so you're decreasing inflammation. You eat a primarily plant-based diet, which is less inflammatory. Yes, some of these food sensitivities will disappear, even if they were real before you made the health changes. So
Absolutely.
2 messages there. One is the food sensitivity tests aren't always real. The second is if they are real, you lose weight, you go on a healthy diet, you heal your microbiome, they may disappear.
Beautiful. Yes, thank you. So my last question to you is, what's the final recommendations? Like, how do, again, just like summarize, what is the best way to get into this fit and, you know, slim, energetic body?
Well, so that gets back to sort of what I talked about earlier. If I were to sum it up, if you need to lose weight, any restrictive diet will do. Although the plant-based restrictive diets, if you start to add back, say, some meat and some dairy and some eggs, now you've gone to maybe a semi-vegetarian diet or a Mediterranean or DASH diet, where it's still incredibly healthy. If you're starting with a restrictive keto diet, on the other hand, and you add back some carbs, you're sort of getting back to the typical American diet, which isn't so healthy because it's so, the keto diet's so meat-based. But any restrictive diet will work short term. Try to choose ones that you can easily transition to a healthy diet, and then just choose a healthy diet that you can accept. That again depends on what are your favorite foods, what's your lifestyle. It might be Mediterranean. I view the DASH diet, even though it was designed to lower blood pressure, as an Americanized view of the Mediterranean diet, Americanized version of the Mediterranean diet. But it might be it could be a lot of different diets, but choose a healthy diet that you can accept, give your body time to adjust, and then learn to listen to your body. Your body will tell you if the diet or the foods you're eating aren't the right ones, but you have to learn to listen.
This is beautiful. Thank you so much. And I think this is amazing. Thank you so much for coming here. And I want to invite you to talk sometimes about, it's in your bio, about slaying the myths of supplements. So I think that it would be so useful and amazing if you could come and join us and we could talk about supplements, because I mean, it's a wild west out there, like literally. it's a pain for some people. It's a big topic. So I would love for you to come and talk to us about it. And if ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching us in Facebook group, or even in you know, you whenever you see the video, let me know if you like the idea to talk about supplements, because I know this is a hot topic. And when I saw it on your bio, I'm like, yes, I'm gonna invite Dr. Chaney to talk about supplements, because I love this topic and I'm sure everybody else loves this topic. And you can tell us, because this is impressive, everything that you've been doing for so many years, and your knowledge, the real one, you know, not the fad one, not the popular last 5 years. I mean, this is proven tactics and the real truth that is tested by the time. And this is so important right now, because again, nutrition is wild west right now. Supplements is wild west. We don't have any, it's hard to find the truth in any type of regulation nowadays. Right. So thank you so much. And we'll talk about where you can, when you can come and talk to us about supplements. Thank you so much for your time. That was amazing.
One of my favorite topics. Be glad to.
Yes. And of course, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about Shockley, the company that you recommended, that led you to introduce you to all of the back ends of everything they're doing, because that's pretty interesting topic. And I love the anti-aging Vivix. I think it's Vivix, that I'm testing right now, and I'm in love. It's everything about anti-aging. Like us, I'm a Russian girl. I love to keep my looks pretty long time. I like to keep them from inside out. So it's a big topic for me also. Thank you. And yes, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Bye.